Hi, my name is Jeremy.
And I'm Aubrey.
And welcome back to episode 4 of the Tentacle Difficulties podcast. All right, so we are now getting to be 4 episodes deep into this goofy little project we decided to start earlier this year, and we've got 2 main movies we're going to focus on today, and those movies are going to be The Stuff, directed by Larry Cohen, and then also Street Trash, directed by J. Michael Muro.
I'm really excited. These were really funny movies.
They're pretty great. And they're definitely not straight up horror movies. One of them in particular is way more of like a satirical comedy than a horror movie. Both of them kind of are, but there's definitely horror elements to both of them. And they're just really fucking goofy, gooey, melty movies.
Yeah, the theme was Melt-o-Mania.
Melt-o-Mania. Because I'm a nerd and I like wrestling and it's WrestleMania season and also it's springtime. So again, shit's melting away unless you live in Denver where we do and it'll probably snow again like tomorrow or something. But who fucking knows? No one ever knows here. But that's okay. Shit will eventually all melt away and we can enjoy our spring and summer by still mostly staying inside and watching movies.
Well, I mean, yesterday and today are a perfect example. It was a really cold and very soggy kind of snow.
Very soggy. It was, very slushy. Not gooey melty, just gross, and I'm tired of it, and I want it to be springtime kind of shit. But yeah.
Yes. But I guess we should talk about the movies we watched other than these 2 before we get into it.
Yeah, we haven't watched as many movies this month as we have the rest of the year. There's been a lot going on. We're both very busy, as a lot of people listening to this probably know. You're an artist and keep yourself very busy with markets and just constantly creating. I'm also a musician. We both work, full-time day jobs on top of that stuff too, so haven't had a lot of time in the last month, but we still fit in some pretty good shit, honestly. We saw some pretty damn good, new horror movies, actually, brand new ones.
Yeah, there were some really good ones. I really liked The First Omen.
Yep, we went out to the theater and saw The First Omen, which goes pretty fucking hard in the paint with some stuff. There's a scene with a demon hand I'm not going to say too much more about and spoil it, but this movie apparently was real close to getting an NC-17 rating and they had to cut some stuff out of it for the R theatrical release, but I'm really hoping that once we get it on streaming or Blu-ray or whatever after, we can see some even more shit that was cut out of it, because it's already pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. It really went there in a lot of different directions. I don't want to spoil anything. I don't think obviously The First Omen, it is a prequel to the original Omen, with Gregory Peck and stuff from the 70s. It basically is kind of, the story of where Damien came from. I don't think that's really spoiling anything. I think that's all kind of out there. Well, yeah, but it shows a lot of things that I wouldn't think that a movie would show.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly, and I think it definitely it has a lot to say about, particular men and in particular the Catholic Church and men and what they do to control women and their bodies, and it definitely has a lot of commentary buried in there about that kind of stuff, and I really liked it. It's set in the 70s in Italy, which of course we're gonna fucking like too.
Yeah, there's just something I think is really beautiful about that entire era and scene.
What's the name of that actress? I think it's Nell Tiger Free, I think is her name, but it's the girl who's in that M. Night Shyamalan series, The Servant, which started out pretty good and then got kind of shitty.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's great in that movie. Yeah, Nell Tiger Free is her name, but yeah, she's great as kind of the lead in that movie. And yeah, The First Omen, definitely check it out.
Yeah, she does really good in religious cult kind of roles.
Sticking with the brand new stuff we've watched, we also watched Stop Motion, which is a really fucking cool movie.
Oh, I liked it. I feel like that's another one about art driving somebody mad.
And I think it has like something to say about like parents' expectations of their kids and stuff too. Because I mean, for those who don't know, the movie is kind of about a stop motion effects artist for movies and stuff, and she is terminally ill, and she's trying to have her daughter help her finish some stuff that she had been working on. And you know, basically as the movie progresses, these creepy little like stop motion figures like all kind of almost start to come to life and intertwine within the real world in ways she doesn't fully understand, you know, if it's real or not. But it's a pretty cool movie.
Yeah, it was really cool. I liked that one a lot. I thought it was really well done and really creepy.
This movie's had a little bit of controversy for some questionable AI use stuff, but we watched Late Night with the Devil.
Yeah, Late Night with the Devil, I liked the concept a lot. I did think the one AI thing is kind of cheesy, but it's not going to ruin the movie.
Honestly, like if people didn't make such a big fuss about it, I personally would have never even fucking known it was AI myself. But I mean, I'm sure if you like stare at it for long enough, you could tell. But it doesn't linger on it even like long enough in the movie, I think, to be super obvious what it is. It definitely doesn't take away from the experience of the movie, but I definitely understand, like, as being kind of a struggling artist myself and feeling sometimes underappreciated. It would be nice, you know, if people would reach out and have real artists create something instead of just going to the easiest solution of AI, which unfortunately is something we're just going to have to deal with more and more and more in movies, I'm afraid.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways it's going to impact life. And it's interesting because I do believe AI is a tool, and I'm not going to discredit that.
There's a time and a place for it. And my thing about it too is like giant, like if it's one thing, I think, like and obviously giant Hollywood movies are using stuff like this too. But like, I mean, like the next Mission Impossible movie or something, like movies that have millions and millions and millions of dollars to just fucking throw away, basically, like using stuff like that. I would fault them like a lot more than like a much smaller, like independent horror film for using it. But I still think it's kind of lame. And they should have reached out to real artists, but it definitely doesn't ruin the movie to me at all. Like,
no, I enjoyed the movie overall. I thought it was kind of cool.
I know we're not saying anything that hasn't been said by a million other people who have covered this movie, but like the lead actor in it, David Dostmalchin, I believe his name is, he's really fucking great. And he's just kind of like a supporting character actor in so many other things. And apparently he's a huge fan of horror and like was super excited to be part of this project. And he's great in it. I do like the fact that, like, you know, it is supposed to be like a 70s late night show that you're seeing footage of, so they can kind of break the fourth wall a little bit. And I think that makes it a lot creepier, like when the supposedly, you know, possessed girl, like when she's able to look directly like into the camera, there's something creepy about that you don't get in a lot of other like kind of exorcism films, because obviously they're not supposed to look directly to the camera unless it is, you know, there are some exceptions of like kind of found footage exorcism films that are okay too, but I don't know, there's something creepy about it that to me that when she just stares like directly into the camera, I don't know, I liked it.
I did too. I thought it was really well done and really creepy, and I will be watching it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely want to watch. Like around Halloween time, I really want to watch this again for sure. Like it's definitely perfect. A Halloween movie.
Yeah,
I mean, it takes place on Halloween or whatever.
Exactly.
Watch some other stuff. This is odd to admit, but like I really don't think I ever saw all of the Toxic Avenger before Joe Bob had it on a couple weeks ago for the last drive-in.
Yeah, it was really fun. I love watching Joe Bob. It's one of my favorite stupid Friday night things that we do.
We look forward to it every time. Absolutely.
So it was really fun to be able to watch that one, especially because the movie before that was so bad.
Rotten Tail, but whatever. But yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about The Toxic Avenger is it actually is tied to one of the two movies we're talking about more today, and we had no idea when we started watching either one. But yeah, there's a special effects artist who worked on both Street Trash and The Toxic Avenger, and we'll get into some more info about her in a little bit. But I just thought that was cool that she worked on that movie, and also Street Trash, which we've been planning on covering for this for several weeks now.
And it's also gooey. Toxic Avenger is also gooey.
Toxic Avenger is very, very gooey. Yep, it sure is. What else? Oh, on 420, we watched Idle Hands, which I hadn't seen since probably like when it first came out on VHS, but it's a really kind of fun, dumb horror stoner comedy movie.
Yeah, I'd never seen it before.
Yeah.
It was very late night, 90s, early 2000s.
It's weird. I don't know. Like now, because we've been watching the new Chucky show, and Devon Sawa is on that show, and he's like all grown up, grizzled old man now, and like I'm finally started to get used to seeing him that way instead of just like 90s heartthrob Devon Sawa. But then I just automatically went back and watched that version of Devon Sawa again, and so now everything's weird again with my perception of Devon Sawa.
Yeah, he looks like a totally different person in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. But I don't even really know where I was going with that other than Devon Sawa is in Idle Hands, and it's a pretty fun horror comedy that like I think it holds up, and I did not waste my time watching it. I had a good time. So
good way to celebrate 420.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's some other stuff we watched this month. I rewatched Alien 3 for the first time in many, many, many years, and yeah, it's still not great. I was kind of hoping it'd be like, yeah, you know what, this is actually a lot better than I thought, but it's not. I don't really want to talk about that more even.
I watched some of Police Story with you. You watched all of it?
Police Story, yeah. I've been getting into like old school Jackie Chan shit again, and like, man, yeah, that original Police Story and like those movies and like just the fucking stunts those guys were doing, just throwing themselves off balconies through glass and all kinds of shit. It's so crazy that some of that stuff is put on film. I love those old like Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan is one of my favorites. Yeah.
But yeah, Police Story fucking rules. That mall scene at the end is awesome. The little like shanty town thing that gets destroyed at the beginning, which obviously like inspired a lot of other shit, even to like, Fast and Furious and stuff like that too. But yeah, old Jackie Chan stuff rules. Jackie Chan just rules in general, really. But
hell yeah.
I don't know. We watched Mad Max, the original Mad Max, because I want to watch all those movies before the new Furiosa movie comes out. So that was cool to finally watch that again. We bought a DVD used somewhere a while ago, and I've been wanting to watch it forever, and we just finally popped it in. But yeah, Mad Max is awesome, of course. Yeah, I don't think there's really much else I really want to talk about. I think we can probably just get into our first movie here, which is The Stuff.
One look, never enough of the stuff.
Never melts, never melts, never melts away.
Oh, so many good jingles.
We're in Andre's exclusive continental restaurant, which caters to only the most discriminating clientele.
How's the food, sweetheart? That's nice.
Where's the stuff?
The stuff is here now. Great new day sensation. Light and free now. Gives you elevation. Enough is never enough. Enough is never enough of the stuff.
The stuff, the taste that makes you hungry for more. The stuff, taste that delivers.
Enough is never enough. Enough is never enough.
All right, so the first part of our Melt-o-Mania double feature is The Stuff, directed by Larry Cohen, and this movie was theatrically released in the U.S. on June 14th, 1985 by New World Pictures, and it was made for $1.7 million.
Wow.
So what is The Stuff about, Aubrey?
The Stuff is about this white stuff.
Literally, just stuff.
That this guy just walking around outside his work is like, oh, what is this white stuff coming out of the ground? And he tastes it. And he's like, oh, so smooth. It tastes real good. Mighty good. And he's
Yeah,
like,
he
could
literally
sell
says
this.
it tastes mighty good. So yeah, he works for these mines. They're called the Fletcher Mines. And this old man, and it's like a snowy evening, and this guy walks around and he finds this weird white stuff bubbling out of the ground. And like what everybody does when you find a weird gooey substance bubbling out of the ground,
Taste it.
you fucking taste it.
Yeah, just dips his fingers in. Just two finger dip. Not even like a small little like.
It's a good dip.
It's like
a
whoop dip.
It's like a Trader Joe's cookie butter, not fucking around dip. It's like, but yeah, and yeah, he says exactly what you said. He says it's mighty good, and he realizes they could probably make money with that. And then the next thing you know, the stuff is on store shelves everywhere. They have their own little like fast food like type restaurants where you can go get little cones and little pints of the stuff to go right at the window, and it is taken over the 80s by storm.
Yes, it is the peak of capitalism, for sure.
So yeah, this movie very much so is definitely about consumerism and corporate greed in our society. The director has said so himself, and you know it's very obvious. This movie wears that on its sleeve, much kind of like They Live or something like that.
Automatically gets a win from me because They Live is one of my favorite movies. I love anything that's talking about.
Yeah, the stuff in They Live actually be a pretty sweet double feature.
It would be. Anyway, back to the anti-capitalism talk about it. It was about cigarette companies mostly, wasn't it?
Well, it was mostly just about corporations in general, like making money. He said basically it was about the people who make money selling poison to people. That incorporates, cigarettes, fast food, pharmaceuticals, junk food, all that kind of stuff like that. Cigarettes in particular were a big inspiration, and we some of this information I'm talking about here we got from, there's actually a documentary on the Blu-ray from Arrow of this stuff, and Larry Cohen kind of goes into detail on his inspiration for this movie, and that's where I got all this info. So it's actually directly from Larry himself. But cigarettes were a big inspiration for the movie, and basically just how the government gave them to soldiers and doctors prescribed them for people, and they basically told, people they were good for you for a really long time. And he basically says that cigarettes ended up killing more people than, the Germans and Japanese combined. And, corporations in America in particular, they clearly don't give a shit if they're selling stuff that's bad for you as long as it makes tons and tons of money. And that's what the stuff is all about. It's, it's a satire about shit that goes on every single day here.
Yeah, and it does a good job telling it. I think you really see the way advertising works.
All the commercials and the fake jingles, which you heard one of which, but there's like 3 of these different jingles in the movie. But yeah, they're so fucking catchy and fun and stupid. And they're really fun, like 80s commercials. And, this was kind of a time period that like people like exercise and diet fads and that kind of stuff was getting super popular at this time. And the whole thing about the stuff that they started marketing and selling to people is they said, it's like, supposedly has like no calories or low calories. It doesn't stain anything if you drop it on it, and they say it's really good for you.
You're losing weight and you're never tired.
Yep, that's what they say.
So it almost seems like that's also making fun of cocaine to an extent.
I mean, there's probably something to said just about like addiction in general with people like of all kinds of substances too. But anyway, like all of society basically is hooked on the stuff, and it seems like everybody's just eating it. It's like it pretty much becomes all that people eat, it seems like. And later on in the movie, these people are called stuffies to the people who aren't actually consuming this stuff all the time. But yeah, everybody is just eating this stuff all the time, and it's becoming really normalized. And there's only a few people who really are questioning what this stuff is.
Well, a lot of people are questioning what it is. That's how we end up with Mo. Remember? Because Mo is hired by corporations to try and figure out what the stuff is.
So yeah, Mo, played by Michael Moriarty, who's fucking great in this movie, by the way. Yes, he is kind of our main character in this movie, and he is a industrial saboteur. and he is hired on by this company to basically try to find out what the stuff is so they can basically steal the recipe and make their own stuff with it and sell it to people, like, normal corporate greed shit.
It's really funny when he goes into the board meeting to get hired by these guys. He's shaking all their hands and everyone, sweaty palms.
Sweaty palms.
Sweaty palms.
That's so weird. Yeah, he says, a lot of sweaty palms. He talks like a combination of like Forrest Gump and fucking like Kevin Spacey in House of Cards.
Yeah.
With his weird Southern accent. But yeah, Michael Moriarty, who plays Mo Rutherford, and Mo isn't his actual name, but why do they call him Mo, Aubrey?
Because every time people give him money, he always wants Mo.
Yeah, he explains this a few times in the movie, but like, yeah. Well, why do they call me Mo? Because every time someone gives me something, I always want Mo.
He mad-libbed a lot of this movie, and it's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Mad-libbed. Ad-libbed. Ad-lib. Well, same difference.
I like the idea that they actually had his lines in like a Mad Libs book and was filling it in that way.
That'd be great.
But no, pretty much all of his performance, I guess, was actually improv in this movie. And Larry Cohen, the director, said that sometimes he liked working with Michael Moriarty, and he worked with him on some other films, which I actually want to cover later too, like Q the Winged Serpent in particular is one. But anyway, like Larry Cohen said he liked working with Michael Moriarty because he could yell out a new line like in the moment of filling a scene, and Michael Moriarty would just like get it and like not break and somehow find a way to incorporate that line into it. So like he was just improvising his shit, but even when somebody else had a line, they would just yell it and throw it out to him in the moment, and he would make it work. That's pretty fucking cool.
I think that's one of my favorite lines in the movie is like that. No one is as dumb as I appear to be.
Yeah, somebody tries to say something and like, "Oh, you're not as dumb as you look to be," or something. He's like, "Nobody is as dumb as I appear to be."
It's great. He makes fun of him. The whole character is perfect, and that's part of what makes a movie so enjoyable, and part of why people didn't really understand it.
But yeah, as this character, as Mo starts to kind of investigating the stuff more and more, he's realizing, no, there is no ingredients. And how does it get through the FDA? Well, the FDA doesn't really care. It's the same way Coca-Cola got passed through. It used to have traces of cocaine in it. And all this shit. So basically, yeah, you can get shit out past the FDA if there's enough money and will to do it. But he's one of the only really people like questioning and starting to see that there's a lot more to this stuff than people lead on, and he's trying to get to the bottom of it. But there's also a kid.
Oh, I love the kid
that comes into the picture here. And this kid, one night, his family, they're all way into the stuff. That's all they want to eat is the stuff. And this kid goes to get like a snack late at night and opens the fridge, and he sees a container of the stuff tipped over, and he sees the actual stuff like crawling around inside the fridge and like it's alive, and he doesn't want to eat this stuff. And his family really has a problem with the fact that he does not want to eat the stuff.
Yeah, his dad gets really mad at him.
His dad does get really mad at him.
They end up like grounding him basically and sending him to his room to eat the stuff. And he gets upset about it, so he flushes it down the toilet and then fills the cup with shaving cream.
Well, he tries to flush it down the toilet, but that scene is fucking gnarly too. He like tries to flush it down the toilet, and it's just like this big gooey white glob moving around in the toilet, like not clinging to it, not wanting to go down. It's gross. I don't know what it is, but like that grosses me out. But yeah, he goes upstairs, he empties out his container of the stuff in the toilet, and he fills it up with shaving cream, of all fucking things, and then goes back downstairs with a spoon, be like, this is so good, while he's just eating spoonfuls of shaving cream.
There's also the scene where he goes ape shit in the grocery store.
Yeah.
And just knocking down every aisle of everything with the stuff.
Once he realizes, once he sees this stuff moving around, he gets freaked out, and he tries to warn everybody. He tries to tell everybody the stuff's not good for you. You shouldn't be eating it. They don't want to listen. But yeah, he goes into a grocery store and has like a shit fit and starts knocking over displays everywhere. And he's just yelling, "It's gonna kill you. It's gonna kill you all."
The kid's a true hero, if you ask me.
He is a true hero.
Although he's dumb as fuck. We do learn that later.
And see, Mo meanwhile, is watching TV, and he happens to see like a news report about this kid going crazy, knocking over the displays of the stuff. And he's like, I want to get in touch with this kid because I also think there's something fishy about the stuff. And then that's how they ended up getting acquainted with each other.
He goes and he rescues the kid. And the kid is like, oh, I've had to eat shaving cream. And Mo says something to the effect of, everyone has to eat some shaving cream once in a while.
Yeah. What's that about? Everyone has to eat some shaving cream once in a while.
It's another one of my favorite lines from the movie.
Yeah, I love it. It's so fucking goofy. This whole movie is just so goofy, and I like it because it's like it's kind of like it's definitely gross, but it's not like gory at all in like a conventional sense because it's not blood and guts like at all. It's just mounds of white goo that just looks like, whipped cream or ice cream or frozen yogurt or something like that. And it just looks like that coming out of everything everywhere. It's not actually blood or guts, but it's still fucking gross.
They did use some really nasty stuff to make the stuff.
Some of it, yeah. They used a lot of stuff as far as like the practical effects goes to create the white substance of the stuff. They had like for the scenes that actually were like where the people were eating it, that was like frozen yogurt or whipped cream or apparently sometimes actually shaving cream.
Disgusting.
But there's also like a bunch of other stuff they use. Like they use like urethane foam for like the scenes where they had like a ton of it they needed, and they had some like kind of like bladders to make it pulsate and kind of bubble and stuff like that. But for other scenes where they needed like large amounts of it, they used something pretty gross.
Ground fish bones?
So
guts?
apparently it's I had heard that it was some sort of like firefighting foam retardant stuff. But apparently it has a lot of like ground up fish guts and fish bones in it, and it just smelled horrible. And I guess like the cast was just like going outside to like a stream or river or something that was nearby the set and just trying to bathe themselves off because it just stank so bad.
It sounds miserable. That part sounds so gross.
And yeah, they poured just like foam, like liquid foam latex over some people's like faces for certain parts, and they had some like puppets that were made out of foam, like hand puppets for like other certain parts. But there's a whole bunch of stuff they did for like the special effects of it, and like some of it's kind of clunky, but like some of it looks pretty fucking good too. And I don't know, I think it's fun and I like it anyway.
They had some pretty impressive things when it came to the advertising in the movie to advertise this stuff. In one scene there's Abe Vigoda and the Where's the Beef lady.
Yeah, I think that's actually at the beginning of the sound clip we played beginning. But yeah, she's, where's the stuff?
I had a shirt that was a Where's the Beef shirt when I was a kid from Wendy's. It was one of my favorites. It was pink. Anyway, doesn't matter. But I was excited about that.
Yeah. And man, so there's some other characters that this kid Jason meets who is I believe he's played by Scott Bloom, Jason is. And in the movie, he also has a brother, and that actually is his real-life brother who's in the movie as well. But the Jason character and Michael Moriarty's character, Mo, there's another woman. She's like a reporter or something, isn't she?
No, she was the person who was in charge of the advertisement campaign.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Mo uses her in a way. Well, he also starts a romantic relationship.
Yeah, it's
with
a
her.
love interest as well. Yeah,
but he uses her to kind of get into the factory and get in to see some of the secret stuff. And she becomes convinced as well that this is a bad thing. And she's like, "Oh, I can't believe I was helping advertise for it." So she wants to help prove that it's bad and prove that it's not good stuff.
So you got Mo and you got her, which her name is Nicole, and you got the kid Jason, and then one of my favorite characters they encounter is a guy played by Garrett Morris, who apparently used to be a tycoon of a cookie company.
Oh, yeah, Chocolate Chip Charlie.
Chocolate Chip Charlie.
Hell yeah.
Chocolate Chip Charlie, yeah, is an old friend of Moe's, and apparently, yeah, he used to be some sort of like cookie tycoon, but the movie kind of makes it seem like he's kind of down on his luck, and partially because of the stuff. Like, the stuff is so popular, nobody wants good old-fashioned chocolate chip cookies anymore.
Yeah, nobody wants them, and he is trying to figure out what the stuff is and to take him down because they've ruined his life.
And man, poor Chocolate Chip Charlie. I will say, like, of all the like deaths in this movie, like, he has one of the grossest, like, gnarliest ones too.
Yeah, he does. Although it's so cool how his face looks though when it's happening.
Yeah, it's so gross. So like, so the stuff basically, as these people keep eating more and more and more of this mysterious white substance that they keep buying because it's, you know, everywhere in front of them, the stuff kind of like, it almost like eats people from like the inside out and like hollows them out almost. But it's like after they eat enough, the stuff kind of like makes its way back out of people through their like mouths, and I'm assuming maybe other orifices too, although that's not verified in the film.
Yeah, you only see it really flowing out of the mouth.
But like, and like, yeah, and once this stuff like leaves people, it like almost leaves behind just like an empty shell. Like, there's definitely some people, the stuffies in the movie, that like it just like literally like their faces like shatter like an eggshell or something like that. But yeah, poor Chocolate Chip Charlie, the stuff gets in him, and his mouth opens very, very, very wide with like a cool prosthetic head they made, and all the stuff comes out. And I don't know why, like the way they painted the inside of his mouth, it has like all these like black little like specks and holes, and it's just super gross looking. I don't know why, but it's gnarly.
It almost looks like chocolate chips. No.
It kind of does, actually, but yeah.
I was really impressed by the practical effects in this movie. Even if they look a little cheesy, it's really cool, and I'm impressed at how they got
unique.
it done.
Like, there's no other movies I've seen. I mean, obviously, there's like The Blob, and there's other stuff that's similar, but like just big, giant piles of like white dessert food stuff. It's just so absurd and fun. I don't know. I just like this. I like this movie a lot because it's just so ridiculous, but it really does touch on very real things that are obviously still a big part of American society and will probably always be.
Yeah.
Just good old corporate greed.
Exactly.
But yeah, I don't know. There's another character they run into that's like an ex-military guy, and like,
oh, yeah.
I don't even really understand what that guy, he has like his own little like militia, but he's like just camped out somewhere, and he's like, he hates communists, and so Mo basically tries to tell him that this is like what if this is like a communist substance trying to take over the country? That's how he tries to get his help to like fight the stuff, because they want to figure out what this shit is and destroy it and stop people from selling it, obviously, but they're not too successful in doing that.
Yeah, I've never really completely understood the point of his character, to be honest.
I think they just needed somebody like badass with like a military background or something to help take on the stuff, because they do eventually find, you know, the mine where the stuff is, and like see the big giant goopy parts of like goopy ponds of it. I don't know what I'm fucking trying to say.
It's bubbling. The bubbles look so weird in that goopy pond of stuff.
Literally of just stuff. That's it.
You can see how they were like filling up tanker trucks.
Yeah, they were filling up big like gas tanker trucks with the stuff, and for some reason the dumbass kid Jason decides to crawl inside of one of these trucks for some reason as they're like filling them up, and there's some kind of goofy like superimposed like special effects scenes over it of like him trying to crawl through like away from the stuff as it's entering the tank.
It made me angry because when he notices that they're going to be doing something to the truck, he crawls down further. He like closes the lid on himself instead of trying to run out and get out.
I think his like, I guess maybe like his only instinct was like, oh fuck, I just gotta hide, and he just did that quickly, and it was like, oh, that was stupid, but I don't know.
He didn't seem like he ever really thought it was stupid. He was just like, oh no, I'm in danger, save me.
Man, there's another I mean, that's kind of like getting towards the very end of the movie here. But man, there's a couple other like cool like practical effects scenes. Like there's a scene in a hotel room, which I don't even know why, but for some reason the stuff starts coming out of like pillows and stuff.
Oh yeah, it like comes out of everything and like pushes up. Oh, but it is
like Mo and Nicole are like sleeping in there, and yeah, it starts coming out of the pillows, and then there's just like a random guy that runs in there.
Yeah, that is weird.
And then the stuff just like blasts out of the bed and like blasts this guy against the wall
and traps him to the ceiling.
But see, and this is a cool thing about this movie too, is so in order to film the sequence of this movie, they had to have a rotating room. So this whole room like rotated, and they had the camera stationary, and that's why you can see like the characters in like the foreground, like closer to the camera, they're actually like strapped in as this thing is like rotating, and that's why the stuff is, you know, like going up and down the walls weird. And it's actually the same exact trick that's been used in a lot of other, you know, famous movies, but that room was actually the same exact room that was used in A Nightmare on Elm Street for a couple different scenes. It was a scene, you know, in the bedroom where all the blood comes out of the bed. That was used for that scene. And it was also used, I believe, Tina's death, where she's like getting dragged up onto the roof and stuff like that. But yeah, it's the same thing in Nightmare on Elm Street, and I think Larry Cohen saw that and like literally like wanted to find like the same room that was used in that movie because he thought it was so impressive. But I also heard that the motor or something on it wasn't working properly, so they had to have other like crew members like physically like push it to try to like rotate it.
What?
Which is why sometimes it kind of sways. It almost goes back down the wall like before it goes back up in like the stuff does anyway. So yeah, that's what I learned about that movie this morning.
That's really cool.
Yeah, but I mean, eventually all of our heroes, minus poor chocolate chip Charlie, you know, they find out where the stuff's coming from. They find out that they shouldn't be selling it, and they try to like put a stop to it. Basically, only to have it rebranded as another substance just called The Taste.
Bum, bum, bum.
And we're sorry if that's a spoiler, but I mean, this isn't the kind of movie that like something like that's going to ruin the movie for you. This is just a goofy, like satirical horror comedy kind of movie, and it's just a lot of fucking fun. I really enjoy this stuff. I think I've seen it 3 times now, but yeah, it's just a lot of fun.
I really like it. I would definitely recommend it. Add it to your watch list, guys.
Oh yeah, I forgot about this fun little fact that I read about it. So all the jingles in the stuff that we talked about and tried to very poorly imitate, that was not like the guy who did the sound for the rest of the movie. Apparently, that was there was a different guy who did the jingles, and this has to be like a pseudonym or something. But he's credited literally in the movie as Richard Seaman. So the guy writing goofy jingles about a mysterious goopy white substance, his name is Dick Seaman, basically, which I think that has to be a fucking joke.
If it's not, that's sad for that person.
Yeah, a couple little like tidbits of information about this movie, I guess. The movie was not a hit at all, and the director Larry Cohen believes that it was because New World Pictures, they marketed it as like a straight up horror film, not the movie that was made, which, as we said, is more of like a satirical comedy. It's not fucking scary at all. But if they would have marketed it differently, maybe people would have looked at it differently. But yeah, and apparently the studio was not happy with the movie that was made. Like, they really wanted a straight up horror film, but whatever.
I don't know how you would make a straight up horror movie of this, and I wouldn't want that.
Yeah, I don't either. But I don't know. I mean, Larry Cohen's a really interesting director. It's very, very New York. He's a very New York motherfucker. When you hear him talk, like very old school New York, like you said, he almost reminds you of Trump or something like that. Not saying his character is like that piece of shit.
Just the way he talks and his mannerisms. It's nothing more than that.
Oh, another thing that Larry Cohen thinks may have hurt the movie. Apparently a hurricane hit when the movie was like first supposed to come out, and there were a bunch of newspapers that had like some early positive like print reviews of it that never got out to people because of the hurricane. So there was, I don't know, this movie was just kind of snake bit apparently, but I mean, it's definitely like a notable cult classic. Like, people who are into movies like you and I are, like, like people know of the stuff and love the stuff now.
Yeah, and it's great.
Yeah. I think another cool thing Larry Cohen said about the movie, too, is he said that the stuff is almost like he views this. I guess a lot of people think that the stuff came from another planet. And from the first time I saw it, too, I was like, yeah, maybe it's just like an alien substance that was here. I don't think that's necessarily the case. Larry Cohen himself said that the stuff is the Earth striking back for what the humans have done to it, basically. It's like, the humans are fucking it up, so they're going to create this substance that all the humans consume that kills them, which I think is kind of cool.
We've basically been talking about that for over 40 years.
Sure as fuck have.
Longer than I've been alive.
Yeah. Special effects team. There's some people in it. Ed French, Rick Stratton, Steve Neal. Just trying to give credit where credit's due here. But they went on, they worked on some other pretty big movies too, like Terminator 2, Fright Night, Edward Scissorhands, Ghostbusters. So yeah, they definitely cut their teeth with some much bigger, more profitable projects as well. But I don't know if I have really anything else I want to say about this stuff. I think I pretty much got through everything I thought was interesting or whatever about it. Did you have anything else you want to add about the stuff?
No, I think we went over everything that I can think of. The only note I have that we didn't talk about was frog burp, and I don't remember what that is.
Frog burp?
Yeah. So apparently I wrote a note about frog burp. If you watch the movie and you figure out what that note means, let me know.
Yeah, I definitely don't have any fucking clue myself what that would be. But cool. All right. Well, I guess we're going to move on to our next film then.
I don't need this.
Are you tired of the same old routine?
My wife, my
Busting
business.
your hump and getting nowhere?
This just ain't my day.
The boss, is he always on your back?
Nice, my ass belongs in your chair, not in your lap, which is where you keep trying to put it. You guys.
The wife, and the kids.
Is that right?
They never listen.
I hate to see him pissing his life away in them goddamn computers.
Do you ever feel like forgetting the whole thing?
Think I got it easy?
Well, now you can.
I'm talking about life!
Drop out and join the ranks of the few. The filthy. The trash.
I got my own place, a condominium.
Where else can you live for free? And eat for even less? Well, be forewarned. Freedom has its price. Yes, there's always a snake in the Garden of Eden.
What you got for me today?
Today, Tenafly Viper. $1.
Here's to you, pussy. Don't drink my Viper. Watch.
What's the matter? You can't hold your liquor, huh?
Street trash. It's easy to find us. We're all over the place. Street trash.
Oh, shit. So, yeah, we are now talking about Street Trash from 1987. This movie, directed by J. Michael Muro, had a limited theatrical release in June of 1987 by Lightning Pictures, who also released the film on VHS the same year. We watched this on a Blu-ray copy released by Synapse Films. And what is Street Trash about?
It is about a liquor store owner who finds some really old liquor in the basement of his liquor store and starts selling it to the unhoused population, who then, as they drink it, start becoming piles of really bright Lisa Frank looking goo.
Yeah. So there's this liquor store owner, and he's kind of like down in this dingy, dusty cellar with spider webs and shit all over it, and he finds like a kind of weird thing that looks like it's like a fake part of the wall or like a board, something that was boarded up intentionally. And he takes it off and he finds this old dusty ass crate of liquor called Tenafly Viper. And he finds this whole crate of liquor in there, and he decides to just, fuck it, let's just take it upstairs and I'm going to sell it to the unhoused people who come in here all the time for $1. And he doesn't know that this stuff, yes, it is going to basically turn everybody who drinks it into just a big, gross, gooey, multicolored, bright pile of goo.
That or blow them up.
Or blow you up. That too, yeah.
Yeah, this movie was really kind of cool looking. I'm going to be honest. I really liked the bright colors that they used and how everything looked as it melted.
Well, it's super unique because, yeah, it's like super bright, like blues and reds and yellows. And it's not just like, you know, like kind of other movies where you see like body melt scenes. You think of like Indiana Jones or something where it makes sense, you know, it's like flesh colored and red and white. But no, this is like fucking 80s day glow, like blue, yellow, pink. Like, it's fucking awesome and just really kind of unique and cool.
Yeah, you can tell like it almost looked like it tasted good in some parts. Now, I heard that it did not.
I'm sure it didn't. But yeah, this movie is like, it's another one of those movies that like, I love it. And honestly, the stuff is kind of like this too, because I think the stuff is more of like a Long Island thing, but this not far from there as well. Like, this movie really is one of those movies that gives you like a nice window into just really gritty, grimy 80s New York, like
collapsed buildings,
Queens, Brooklyn, just like dingy, dilapidated buildings and people living in there and just madness that like, I don't know, it's just like an era. I've only been to New York City once for like less than 2 days, and that was in like, I don't know, 2016 or something like that. So very, very different New York that has been, you know, cleaned up and gentrified and made very, very expensive. Very different from what we're seeing in movies like Street Trash. And I just like love this glimpse into that. It's just ultra grimy fucking New York. And I think super low budget movies like this showcase it even more than, you know, higher budget movies set in New York. But I mean, there's exceptions to that, I guess. There's some high budget movies that do a great job, but still, I love the griminess of this.
It's really grimy, really gritty. I think they did a really good job with set locations.
Definitely.
They filmed it in like 2 different areas. One is this cool junkyard, and they just used the junkyard to build the set. It was so cool. Like, there's a tire house.
Yeah, they build a house out of tires that, like, a couple of our main characters in this movie basically, it's a guy and his younger brother, and they live in it. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the movie takes place in this big junkyard that was just a real junkyard. And I think they say it's on like the edge of like Queens and Brooklyn or something like that, which forgive me, I'm not an expert on the boroughs of New York. So if I'm completely off base and those are like in separate parts of the city, forgive me, but I think that's what they said, but I don't know.
I got nothing. I've never been to New York, and it is massive. So I can't keep anything straight with that.
But yeah, I mean, the junkyard, it was a real junkyard, and like all the stuff like that they used for the movie in the junkyard just came from being a very low budget movie. It just came from the junkyard. Like the set designers and the special effects people, they just repurposed as much shit as they possibly could from the junkyard. So they have this cool fucking house made out of tires and like a broke down car that they like go through to get into it. And there's like a guy who's basically the king of all the people who live in the junkyard, and he has this like big weird giant like throne thing that's made of like car parts or something. I don't know, it's kind of wild and cool and maybe kind of like Mad Max looking kind of shit.
I don't completely understand the role of the women in this. I think they're just there.
What women? You mean just like the women that are like the homeless, like
the ones that he just has hanging on his lap and stuff?
I don't know. I think they like call the one like the queen of the winos or something at one point. But I will say this movie maybe doesn't have the most sympathetic or like sensitive like depiction of like unhoused people maybe at times. But I mean, it's from the fucking like mid 80s. Like, what do you expect?
I think there's a lot of things that it doesn't do with the most respect, but it's funny and I enjoyed it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely like touches on some like real issues that are still issues to these days with these people. Like, I mean, the fact that like it has a lot to do with a lot of them are like, you know, Vietnam veterans that came back and have been through hell, and then their country doesn't take care of them at all, and they end up on the streets. That's something that is very much prevalent today, unfortunately, still. And so, I mean, it does raise at least, you know, some awareness to real issues like that, but it is of its time. It's mid 80s. This is definitely not like a very PC movie by modern standards at all. So I guess just a warning if you're sensitive to stuff like that, understandably. But yeah, I mean, these people, I mean, I think literally they just call them bums in the movies, or winos is pretty much just what they call them. So, I mean, for better or for worse here, I might just call them that because that's what they call them in the movies. But yeah, the kind of main character in the movie is this guy, Fred. And like, again, we mentioned he lives in this big house made of tires in this junkyard, and he lives there with his, like, he's supposed to be his 14-year-old younger brother, and something happened with their parents, and obviously they're on the streets having to fend for themselves. And Fred kind of knows something is up with this liquor, and he kind of tried to figure out what's going on with it and doesn't want to drink it because he has seen what it has done to other people.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. He gets a bottle of it, he does buy it, and then somebody steals that bottle from him.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool scene because he runs off and he drinks it while sitting on a toilet in this dilapidated building with like half the walls missing. And as he is turning into goo, he pulls the chain for the toilet that's flushing him down it, and his arm gets stuck on the chain. So it just has the arm and then this pile of goo in the toilet.
Because, yeah, it's one of those old school toilets. It doesn't have a modern flusher. It has like the chain above it. You have to
the gravity flush
pull down. But yeah, this guy sits on the toilet. He takes like a drink of this. This is like the first scene in this movie where you see what this liquor does to people. But yeah, he sits down on the toilet, takes a drink of this stuff, and the first thing you see is just his mouth is like bright blue, and you're like, whoa, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden he just starts like melting into like this bright blue and yellow colors while he's sitting out of the toilet. He's just like melting down into the toilet, and you can see his like legs are just like melting off, and yeah, eventually he reaches up to flush the toilet and his whole fucking arm melts and his hand is just like left there, and he's just this big pile of blue goo basically in the toilet after it. It's awesome.
Yeah, you just kind of see throughout the movie a few other people who get their hands on bottles like that just turn to goo for the first little bit, and you're like, okay.
Well, it does like different stuff to people too. Like there's one guy where it's almost like a fucking Willy Wonka scene where he drinks it, and he's like kind of a, you know, he's kind of like a bigger guy anyway, but he drinks it, and he just, his stomach is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and he just explodes.
Almost like a gas bubble.
And that's one of the like few exceptions in the movie that actually is more like real blood and guts. It's not like multicolored stuff. So it does do some different things to some people. There's a cool part where the guy melts, like there's a guy up on like a fire escape balcony thing with like a metal grating, and he like is drinking it, and he starts like melting through it, and there's people walking underneath, and there's big globs of this orange yellow goo dripping down on top of him. It looks
like lemon meringue pie to me. Like that lemon mixture. Oh, it looks really good.
Well, the goo, one of the guys like in the business suit where all that goo drips down on top of, I guess, was like the director. They just, or not the director, the producer, and they just wanted to like get him messy as well, just like the rest of the the crew had to be. But yeah, I don't know. There's all kinds of other people that are melted and blow up and shit like that in this movie. There's a lot of just gross, weird gooiness. And it, again, like the stuff, even though a lot of it's not just like traditional blood and guts, there's a little bit in this one, but like it's real fucking gross to watch still.
Yeah. Oh, one of my favorite things is they get some money finally and they decide they're going to go get some food from the grocery store. And the guy who goes to get food from the grocery store starts sticking all the food down his pants.
Yeah, he has these like huge pants and he just is like sticking whole things of like chicken
Raw
and
chicken.
melons.
Yeah. Like everything for a whole feast. It's really funny.
Fuck yeah. Steal from grocery stores. Who cares? I will never say shit for anybody stealing from a grocery store.
I like the raw chicken hanging out the bottom of his lip.
That's wild.
Anyway, that was one part of the movie I really thought was funny.
But I don't know. I really do like this kind of like ragtag group of these unhoused people in this movie. Like some of them are a lot of fun. There's also weird ones that are just like assholes and try to control the other ones too. That are kind of like more mean and vicious. But like the main character, like Fred, is pretty likable. And I think an interesting thing I learned about him watching, again, like we said earlier about this stuff, there's a good documentary also on the Blu-ray we bought for Street Trash from Synapse. But yeah, there's a good documentary about the making of this movie. And one of the things they talked about in there was like the lead actor was this guy, Mike Lackey, who he actually worked on like in the makeup and art department for this movie and other movies as well. There was supposed to be another guy who played this main character, but apparently they said he was a junkie and he didn't show up, and the director was just like, well, I guess you just have to play this guy now rather than doing makeup for another guy playing him.
Yeah, and I think he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I think so too. There's a very particular appendage that I think he actually got to help create as part of the special effects crew for this movie too. But we'll get into that scene in a minute because it's the best scene of the movie.
I mean, we're not going to give anything away when we say that you do get to see a couple different dongs in this movie.
Oh yeah, you do. You see it like way early in the movie too. You see a full frontal like male naked guy and woman, and like the guy's like running down the stairs, and there's dong flopping everywhere, and it's marvelous.
That was pretty exciting. I didn't expect it, so it also made it better.
Yeah, there's a scene in this movie where like as we mentioned before, there's like a guy that's kind of like the king of the bums or whatever you want to call him. Like, he's like the kind of guy who tries to like rule over the other like unhoused people in this fucking junkyard. But there's a scene where he like basically assaults some people that are driving through the town, and he like rips the guy out of the driver's seat like side of his car. But there's like a really cool shot as that guy is getting ripped out of his car where it's like the camera is like looking through his glasses and it's like kind of like spinning, and like I don't know, it was kind of like a really cool unique shot that I really liked.
Yeah, that shot was really cool. I thought the way that the glasses looked with the film, like, it blurred it just enough. It looked really interesting, and I don't completely know how they did that.
I don't know either. It's cool though. But man, there's a lot of other weird shit in this movie. There's like, so again, like we've said, there's a lot of these characters are Vietnam veterans, and like that guy in particular, the king of the junkyard character. I'm sorry, I just really don't know. I
think his name is Bronson.
I think you're right. That sounds right, actually. But like this guy in particular has these weird like Vietnam flashback dreams, and one of them had like these weird like vampire girls in it. Like...
Yeah, I don't completely understand where that was going or coming from in the plot. So I think there's a lot of things in the movie that kind of seem to take a weird segue, and you're not sure what it has to do with the rest of
this
it.
This movie like almost seems more like one of those like, you know, quote like slice of life type of movies where it's almost about just like, hey, this is just like a couple crazy days in the lives of these houseless people and like what they go through, more than it's like a movie that has like a real like definitive driving plot. But I don't know, maybe it was just kind of pieced together weird, being just like a super low budget movie anyway. But I mean, there's some other characters in this movie. Like there is like a cop trying to figure out what's going on and what these mysterious like melted people are coming from and stuff. And apparently that cop actually was like a real like New York cop who got hurt on duty, and he had to like stopped working for a while, and he got some weird random job being a bodyguard for he said it was for somebody that was collecting bat heads for like some sort of medical testing or something like that.
Yeah.
But she was going into like these really rough spots of like rough boroughs in New York in the 80s, and he had to like protect her. But like she was dating somebody like working on the movie. Like, I don't know, I can't remember if it was like the writer or director, but she was like dating somebody, and like they were looking for a cop for the movie, and he introduced this guy to the crew of the movie, and he got like the role as the police officer in this movie. So
the guy Wizzy had never acted before either.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people, I guess, that had never acted before in this movie, and there was a lot of improv. This movie apparently had like, there were a lot of trained actors as well, but they were more like stage, like Broadway kind of actors. And like, apparently they were like super strict with wanting to say everything word for word exactly as it was written in the script. But then they had all these other people in the movie that were just kind of improvising stuff too. And so it was kind of a weird juxtaposition of being improvised and also like exactly what was written. But yeah, there was a lot of people, that had never actually acted before in this movie that they just put in there, which is pretty cool.
It could be a few people's first movies they kind of worked on. Like we kind of touched on it when we talked about the Toxic Avenger, the person who did the special effects or hair and makeup.
Yeah, her name is Jennifer Aspinall. I actually think she did this after Toxic Avenger, though.
Oh, really?
I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but I think so. And then she also worked on the movie that would eventually be Spookies.
Oh, really? I really liked Spookies.
That movie has like a weird production history, apparently, where like it was made as one movie for a while, and then they brought in a whole bunch of other people and reshot and like recut some stuff. And apparently she wasn't part of like the stuff that was reshot and recut that made the final version of Spookies. But when it had like a working title of a different name, I guess she had worked on it, is what I read about her. But anyway, yeah, she did Toxic Avenger special effects. She did, yeah, obviously Street Trash here, some stuff in Spookies. She went on to work for Saturday Night Live from 1987 to 1993, and then also Mad TV. And she actually, apparently she was nominated for an Emmy for SNL, and she won an Emmy actually working for Mad TV and had a bunch of nominations. So
that's really cool.
But yeah, and I mean, I guess it's like a combination of like hair and makeup and also just coming up with goofy shit, like when they want to parody a kids show and they need like a fucking Big Bird look-alike thing, she might have to make a costume for something like that. So
that's awesome.
There's also some other interesting people that worked on this. So Bryan Singer, like that Bryan Singer that directed like The Usual Suspects, X-Men, X2, I think that Valkyrie movie with Tom Cruise.
Wasn't there a Superman movie too?
I think he did direct a Superman movie, but yeah, he was a production assistant on this movie, and I guess he was mostly just in charge of like getting like food for like craft services and stuff. But it was also his job to drive the fake penises around that were used for, again, my favorite scene of the movie, which I guess we could just talk about.
Yeah, it's a keep away game with a penis.
Yes, there's a keep away game with a severed penis in this movie that's just fucking fantastic. And that Bronson guy, is that his name? I think.
Yeah.
But like he was holding a guy down with a knife to his throat, and I think one of the other people saw and wanted to try to stop him, so he started peeing on him, apparently. You know, that the best way you could think of to try to stop somebody with a knife, just pee on him.
I thought it almost seemed like it was just happenstance.
It might have been.
He was just drunk and peeing.
It might have just been an accident, but for some reason, in my head, I like to think he was like, he's got a knife to his throat, well, this'll teach him. But you're probably right.
Yeah, so Bronson just reaches over and rips his dick off.
Well, he cuts it off with the knife.
Oh, I thought he ripped it off.
I think. But like, anyway, he severs this penis. And the guy, you know, obviously screams out in pain and runs out. And all the other people decide to basically just play a giant game of keep away toss with this severed penis. It's like a pretty long scene. It has some goofy goofy music is what I meant to say. And man, it's so much fun. And there's like classic shots that look like they're just right out of like, you know, football movies with a guy going for the touchdown catch, but with this severed dick.
It just looks like it's bouncing around in the wind. It's just like flopping around. And they use 3 different sizes, right?
Yes, they had 3 different fake dicks that they made for the movie, and apparently they had they called them the pecker, the poker, and the packer. So those are the small, the medium, and the large ones.
It is a ridiculous scene, and it looks really gnarly. Like it's a pretty good penis.
Yeah, it's definitely not a clean cut at the base of the shaft. It's pretty gross looking. But like, apparently they had multiple sizes of this dick to play keep away with, because it just like they were having a hard time filming it in the scenes where it's just like floating through the sky and stuff, being at like the normal, the more anatomically like correct version of it. So they had to have like a bigger one for certain shots and smaller ones. Yeah, I don't know. There was 3 total dicks, but apparently, Bryan Singer had to drive the fake dicks around.
I also really enjoyed one scene in the movie where there's a car accident and it seems like all the doors fall off.
It's like the hood and the trunk and all 4 doors just like fly open. Like it's it's funny.
Good scenes like that. I think they did a really good job making a lot with very little money. It did not have a huge budget.
No, I didn't see exactly what the budget was. They said it took about 13 weeks to film, which is maybe a little longer than like some other like low budget horror movies that we've covered for sure. But I don't know. Like I don't know. It's just a really unique movie. Like it's just I don't know. Just like the colors of it and everything. It's just a fucking weird ass movie that I've liked a little more every time I've watched it.
And I think it, again, touches on some amount of consumerism and how we spend money and take advantage of people with that.
And just sell shit to people that will kill them. Yeah, and people don't care as long as there's a buck to be made.
But really, consumerism was not the point of this 2 movies thing. It was the melting.
It was Melt-o-Mania, yes. And we've been going back and forth trying to figure out, I guess, what our next topic is going to be for our next episode, and we were thinking something like along the lines of like the end of the school year, something like that. But I think we're just going to do our first idea of let's just do the double feature of Prom Night and Prom Night 2, since we've never seen either one of them.
Heck yes.
We found out there are actually several more Prom Night movies, and we thought about maybe covering them all like we did Leprechaun style, but I don't know if I want to do that again so soon. Maybe we'll just keep it simple, cover 2 movies. I would like to keep these episodes a little shorter than our last few, like this one is probably going to be. So yeah, I think 2 movies is going to be a good one. Prom Night and Prom Night 2. Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2.
Yeah. And we are going to have fun with that, I think.
Of course we're going to have fun with that. We always have fun watching this goofy shit.
Yeah, we do.
I guess we should be a little bit better about trying to say that, like, if you're on Instagram, you can follow us on there. We're at Tentacle Difficulties Pod. If you're listening to this on whatever streaming service you're listening to, even if you're not listening to it on YouTube, like subscribing to the page and like giving our episodes a like, really could help us out. It's little simple, really simple, stupid things like that could help us. We honestly haven't been pushing this too hard ourselves because we're still getting used to doing this, and I'll push it harder once I'm more comfortable with it, to be honest, but I'm still having fun figuring it out.
Yeah, I've got to work on some things. Like, I'm still practicing.
It's hard. I mean, I think people don't, this stuff is hard. It seems simple, I think, sometimes. But once you sit down and do it, it's hard not to get word salad and just fuck up everything and lose your train of thought. It really is. But, all you can do is just keep trying and getting better.
Yeah, and I hope that as we keep doing this, we're making you want to watch some of these movies.
And again, we're not necessarily trying to give you like the whole synopsis and the whole story of this movie from point A to point B. We're more just trying to give you just things that we found fun about it, things we liked about it, and encourage you to watch them yourselves. And just, again, don't take it too seriously. Have a little fun with it.
Or in the case of Leprechaun, watch a bunch of things so you don't have to.
Yeah, don't watch all those still. Don't do that. I guess. I guess if you're really into them, do it. But again, we don't need to talk about that anymore. Jesus Christ, we already did it enough. All right. Well, that's it. Once again, my name's Jeremy.
And I'm Aubrey.
And this is the Technical Difficulties Podcast. We'll be back soon.